government of India has brought in a few incentives and exemptions to help startups in the early stages. So in fact, it is always good for the startups to know about these incentives and exemptions available for them, so that they can stay compliant in the early stage, and then at a later stage, this would always help them in the longer run. So over to you, Aditya.
Thanks so much, Anudeep. Again, a very warm welcome to all our panelists and all that who have joined us again here. And a great thanks so much for supporting us to bring these webinars out to you. I think it just showcases our our drive and our a basic thing of bringing a lot of these informative sessions to you. So the idea behind this, as Anudeep mentioned, was that a lot of startups have a lot of ambiguity in terms of what is exempt, how much is exempt, for how long it is exempt, and if they do get funding or if they do get investments into the startups, right, is that exempt or not? So we thought this. So the whole idea was to get professionals and speakers from that domain area and to have a very interactive session with you guys. So I would first of all like to extremely thank our special chief guest, Madam Ms. Mini Chandran Yu, for immediately having agreed to participate as coming and talking to startups. I still remember speaking to her, and she immediately agreed. She said, "Okay, you tell me the date, and I'll be very happy to come and address startups there." So we'll start with Madam. I'll just give a brief bio about her. She was very modest in saying, "Okay, don't give a very long speech. Just keep it short." So I'll just keep it short. Madam is a 2007 IRS batch officer. She has over 14 years of experience. She has a master's in economics, specialization in capital markets, and she's a gold medalist. What can you do better than that? She has participated in various seminars, both international and domestic, and she's been a regular contributor to national dailies in terms of writing articles, in this space. So having said that, I will just go ahead and invite Madam now. And Madam, please come and address your session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aditya ji, and also all my friends who have assembled here. And it's for me, it is like a proud privilege to address you all who are dreamers and visionaries. I may call you all of you as dreamers and visionaries, because you are going to script a glorious chapter in the success story of India's startup ecosystem. As you all know, India has the world's third largest startup ecosystem. And the topic which Aditya ji and Tai has selected today is very, very relevant for all of you who are dreaming to make it big in the entrepreneurial world. Even though I feel my profession is in taxation, at heart I am an economist, and I will always be an economist. So I would touch upon certain points more than taxation. I would like to understand your perspective also during the question answer session. But right now, I will just give an overview, because Mr. Sumant also will be addressing in depth through PowerPoint and all. So I will just touch upon what are the incentives available to startups. So in one of my articles, some great man said, I don't remember who said, there are two things which are certain in the world, that is death and taxes. Everyone wants to avoid it, but we can't avoid it at any cost. So these first, any startup or any entrepreneur should have that understanding in mind. Avoiding tax, it will have a short-term benefit only. Anyway, it is painful to pay tax, including for anyone, because especially for a startup, it's like a baby. In an industrial ecosystem, a startup is like a baby. So basically, when you are hunting for, or when you are frustrated with finding funds for your business, somebody is coming and telling you to pay tax, there is nothing more, I will use the word atrocious than that. So, but why you have to know about the tax system and tax incentives and the tax provisions is very important, because if you are looking for some long-term development, or if you are a visionary who want to be a unicorn, you have to understand the taxing provisions. That's why most of the startups fizzle out after 1 or 2 years. Why that happens? I'm not going in depth about that, but coming to the taxation section, what are the provisions you should know? As I said earlier, ignorance is a bliss, but not for an entrepreneur who is conceiving or who is initiating a startup. So now let us see. First of all, I wanted to tell what are the provisions. What will be see, let me be very frank. When you are going for a startup, you will ask if you are well off, you will ask your parents or your close friends to fund your startup. Otherwise, you will put across your idea to the investors. And investors are people who are already smart and who have made their money and who know how to utilize their money. So you are facing the most difficult part in initial years of a startup is to attract investors. For that, what government has provided in the Income Tax Act, I am going to tell one important section which you should know, and that is section 56. So there is a provision in that section, more particularly 56 to 7B. So I am not going into the intricacies. You just remember there is a section called section 56. So now, suppose I am the investor in your startup. Let me take Aditya ji is going to start a startup and he is coming for funds to me. So what I think, okay, my analysis of Aditya ji's business is he is going to convert salt water. ISA has abundant salt water because we are Bay of Bengal is here. So that for raw material is there. Okay, it's a good project. And I will ask Aditya ji, what is the cost of converting this salt water to pure water or drinking water? So normally in the market, if it is now at present, it is for 1 liter, 100 rupees he has to spend, means it's not a viable project. But now in his this scheme which he is putting before me, he is telling, no madam, my scheme is like that. This technology is such advanced. This is a new technology which I have conceived. With this technology, I would be able to convert 1 liter of salt water to fresh water by only using or investing 2 rupees. Then as an investor, I would be very happy because now I will be able to sell a bottle of mineral water for 10 rupees. I am telling the practical aspects because I don't want to bore you by telling sections which you all forget. So 10 rupees. Okay, as an investor, suddenly, okay, this is a good idea. So then I will look into the financials, project idea, everything is good. So I am coming in as an investor. So there is a book value of shares. Maybe Aditya ji has already floated a company. He would have come with a face value of his shares, 10 rupees. Okay, I know as an investor, I know this company is going to, this idea will fetch results in the long run. Maybe I will get a return on my investment up to 500%. So I am willing to take his shares worth 10 rupees by paying 100 rupees. Because as an investor, I know the potential of this idea. Now there is a problem. Earlier, the problem is because of 56 to 7B in the Act, if I am giving Aditya ji, his book value of his share is 10 rupees. If I am giving him 100 rupees, this 90 rupees, the government will impose tax on this extra 90 rupees above the face value. Again, I am repeating, if the share is in his book is worth 10 rupees, as an investor, I am being attracted by his idea and I am willing to pay 100 rupees for his share. That extra 90 rupees, government will impose tax on it. So suddenly I will think about it, even I won't be incentivized to invest in it. That's what, this was a major problem which was faced by startups. So government, to encourage startups and to encourage investors to invest in the startup, has exempted startup from angel tax. So this is in short what is the benefit available to startups, which you should all know. When you negotiate for fund with an investor, you can always see if national and international investors, they all know this provision. But when you are sitting in a small tier 3 or tier 2 town, the local person who is having 1 crore rupees, he won't be knowing 56 to 7B and all. He has funds. So if you want to make him invest in your company, you should know this provision. I'm not talking for an educated client or an educated investor, where you are able to mobilize fund from local sources. This provision, understanding of this provision is very important. So the first provision, which is incorporated in the Income Tax Act for the welfare or for the growth of startup, is which will have a very positive impact in the long run, is startups are exempted from angel tax or the rigorous of provision of 56 to 7B, which will make investing in startup attractive to any investor. This is one section. And another section which I would like to say is 54GB. So you would know about the capital gains. In simple terms, I will tell, I'm selling my house I bought for 1 lakh. I'm now selling it at maybe 20 lakhs. So I'm not telling complicated example of indexation and all. So you just do straight mathematics, 20 minus 1, then 19 lakhs I have to offer to taxation. Cost of acquisition, government will give me benefit. So when I offer 19 lakhs to taxation, government will give me relief if I invest in another house property. If I buy within 2 years or 3 years as the condition, may house or plot within that year, within these stipulated years, 2 or 3 years, if I buy another house property, I need not pay taxes. I will be exempt from taxes. So like that, this was a very attractive provision for the people to invest in residential property. So just to encourage investors to invest in equity shares of startup, what government has introduced another section called 54GB. 54GB. As per that, and in the latest budget also, the time limit has been extended. As per that, if I sell my residential house, instead of investing in another residential house, now I can invest in the share of a startup and claim tax exemption. So basically, when you are this is very useful for a person who is in tier 2 or tier 3 cities, because if you have seen, Vizag is going to become the capital. There is a lot of transactions which is happening, sale and transfer of properties which are happening here. And if you are when you hunt for funds, if you can find out somebody has sold a house property or so, and if you are able to sell your idea across to that person, you can tell them very categorically, instead of investing in house property, suppose you have got 1 crore, 50 lakhs, you invest in that house property. 50 lakhs, if you invest in my company, you will get tax exemption. And this window has been extended up to 31st March. Early it was only up to March 2021. In a couple of days it would have expired. But in the latest budget, our Honorable Finance Minister has extended it up to 31st March 2022. And people who are based in Vizag, this will be a blessing anywhere in the country, but all the more Vizag, if it becomes a capital city or in anticipation of that dealings happen, you can put across to your friends and neighbors or uncles or aunts, like this is what is happening. You can you can take a calculated risk. Anyway, you will be exempt from taxation. So this is one provision. So as far as to attract investment, you should know 2 provisions, Section 56 and one is Section 44GB. I think I am clear. Any questions? Aditya ji, I am clear.
Yes, madam. Madam, so like what we'll do right now is we'll take the questions at the last section. Like once Sumit is done. So I think once you finish.
Yes,
yeah.
I am slightly fast. Whether people are able to catch what I'm trying to tell. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just give a quick, to all the participants here. In case, any of you have questions, so just feel free to just like write in the questions tab. Anudeep will be coming and, taking on those questions. You can either leave it in the questions tab on your right-hand side, or you can also leave it under the chat section when you see on your right-hand side. And then once I think we get done with Sumant, Anudeep will take up the questions and then we'll get them addressed to you and all that. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Then we will come to another section. Now imagine you have started your business, you are flourishing. Now you start making profits. So then comes another section, because initial stages of your business, you would have gone through a lot of rigors, to run this business, start this business, conceive the idea, hunting for investors and all. But you should get some breathing time to pay tax. For that, there is another section in the Act, that is 80IAC of the IT Act. 80IAC of the IT Act. So for that, one thing you should understand is, it should be recognized, any startup, as I earlier told, for 54 GB of Section 56 benefits, or for this 80IAC, the startup should be recognized by Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. So that you should be always, this is one precaution you should take care, because after, if it is not recognized, you won't get any of these benefits in the Act. So there, you can go to startupindia.gov.in site, and you can see what are the conditions for registration. And once it is recognized by the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, it will become an eligible startup. Once you are an eligible startup only, you will be able to avail all these benefits, the 3 sections which I have told you. And one more thing is, for the benefit of 80IAC, or any, for that matter, any section, the startups should be incorporated as a private limited company or a public limited company. That doesn't make it. It should be in company form or an LLP form, limited liability partnership form. Here you have to be very, very careful. This one thing which I wanted to tell regarding the recent change in the budget. Earlier, what happened is, suppose you have an idea, you are not able to find a partner to support you, so you cannot float a partnership. You want to start as a proprietorship concern. But if you start it as a proprietorship concern, you won't get the benefits of this section in the IT Act. To help startups to overcome this difficulty, proprietorship concern in the sense, one person, I want to start my own concern, but it's not in the form of a company, because earlier, for a one person to start a company, there are so many hurdles, like in the form of paid up capital, turnover, a lot of hurdles were there. Now in this budget, this is a very good initiative or incentive for the startups. You should all know. Now in this budget, when the FM announced this budget, she had announced that you can float one-person company. So I'm Miss Minichandran. I don't want to, either nobody is interested in my idea, I only believe in my idea, or I don't want to bring in so many people to my company because I have my own idea. I want to take my decision. I'm very confident of it. So you can float a one-person company. That is the major change which is introduced in the budget. And you should always be careful. If it is one person, registers it as a one-person company, or it should be in company form or LLP or a partnership form, in that way, for when getting the benefits under the Income Tax Act. So while incorporating or while registering a startup, this should be kept in mind. Don't float it as a proprietorship concern. Make it a company or a LLP. That would be always better. And now, earlier, the startup, to avail the benefit, startup should have been registered after 1st April 2016, now, and also between 31st March 2022. In this budget, one more year extension. It was otherwise, it would have expired by 31st March 2021. Now, if you are planning, anybody is planning to start a startup, you float it before 31st March 2022 to avail all these benefits. Maybe in future, government may extend or may not extend, but why take risk? If you are planning to float a startup, do it before 31st March 2022 in the form of a private limited company or one-person company or an LLP. So this you should be very much aware of. And one more thing is, sorry, another issue, this thing is, once a startup which for 80IAC, a startup incorporated after 1st April 2016 is eligible for the benefit of 80IAC. Here there is a condition. Suppose you are a startup, first 10 years of your inception, first 10 years, earlier initially it was 5 years, later extended to 7 years, since now it is 10 years. In first 10 years of your inception, you can avail tax benefits or 100% benefit of, tax as in the 6th year, you have started making profit. So you can offer 80 IAC this year, 6th year, because you have profit, you don't want to pay taxes because you are just reaping the benefits of your hard work just now only. So 6th year, 7th year, 8th year, there are 3 consecutive years you can avail 80 IC. This you should know. So now there is I will tell you, this is 6th year, suppose you are making profit. 7th year, you are not making profit, loss. 8th year, again, you are making profit. 9th year, again, you are loss. So you cannot pick and choose years. You have to, if you have started availing 80 IC benefit in the block of 10 years, only for 3 years you can avail it. And in those 3 years, it should be consecutive 3 years. This is also very, very important. Otherwise, the department may reject your claim. So what I wanted to tell is, this year, if you have started claiming tax 80 IAC benefit, this year, next year, 3 consecutive years. You cannot pick and choose 1 year when you make profit. So it should be 3 consecutive assessment years. And another one thing which may come up in future when you claim this benefit is, see, the basic idea of incentivizing or giving tax exemption or tax incentives is to encourage innovation. And what happens, suppose in your effort to save cost, you buy all the second-hand goods, existing business, and reconstitute it and name it as a new entity and claim exception. It is not that those units won't be eligible, because it will go under reconstruction of existing business. If a reconstruction of existing business is done, you are not eligible for 80 IAC. So friends, one thing you should be very careful. If you are going to start, maybe temporarily you will be gaining cost and all, benefit and all, but you always look for starting your company or in a company afresh. Because if you go for an existing constitution of an existing entity, you may feel it is renamed and it is new. But when we look into the conditions, in future, you will definitely have problems. So let's have a long-term vision and a long-term plan to, when you are jumping into the entrepreneurial fray with a dream and a vision. One more thing I wanted to tell is, anyway, it is not appropriate to tell at this stage, because our topic is about tax incentives and the tax benefits available to startups. If you look into the startup ecosystem throughout the world, the maximum startups, successful startups, you will see in US, followed by China. And you know, the US and China has one of the stricter tax regimes in the world. So then how they are progressing, or I would say knowledge of taxation system is very important. But more than that, your entrepreneurial spirit and how to grow under crisis, that attitude and other enabling factors, the way you are able to innovate and conceive the idea plays more role than the taxation system. And in the long run, one more thing is, even if you get advice from anybody that better not to pay taxes, if you look into any entity, if you are doing well, definitely if you are facing losses, you will not pay taxes. You have to just file the return. But in the long run, if you see that any global player or any startup which have done well, they have had paid robust taxes. Why? Because when it is as simple. If you go and buy a company, if you look into the balance sheet, if the balance sheet is bleeding, nobody will buy it. But if your balance sheet is healthy, it will be attractive to investors. So they will buy your shares at premium. So think of in that terms and understand the tax incentives to take your business forward and not for tax avoidance. So friends, let me sum up. This is a very, the government wants to encourage the startups, and that's why they have introduced all these beneficial provisions in the Act. But to avail those provisions, you should always have an idea of what are the conditions, and always keep yourself updated. Every budget, there will be special provisions for the startups. In news and all, it will be always coming for 1 week. You have to read it. You have to thoroughly update your information. For example, why it is important, I will tell you. Earlier, for exemption from 56, I was telling angel tax, you should have a turnover of 25 crores only. See, if your turnover is including premium, paid up capital, including premium, not turnover. If your paid up capital, including premium, is about 25 crore, you will not get exemption from angel tax. So you should know the intricacies of provision also. And it is nowadays, knowledge is freely available everywhere. You can Google Income Tax India. There are sites wherein all these sections will be dealt in detail. It will take only 5 minutes. But you should know what are the conditions spelled out in those sections. I have given a broad overview because Mr. Suman will be explaining in detail, and it will be a duplication. So, to sum up, these 3 sections you should be very thorough: 80 IAC, 54 GB, and 56 to attract investors. Thank you, Aditya ji, for this opportunity, and thank you one and all. Maybe I would address you during question answer sessions if you have any doubt. Thank you one and all. Thank you. All the best for your future endeavors. You're all nation contribute. And I wanted to say that you are all like startups provide more than 5 lakh employment in the country. So you are greater than, your contribution to nation building is lesser to none. All the best, and best wishes for all your future endeavors. Thank you one and all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. I think your first line when you just started out, I think could not be more music to the ears of startups, saying that for a startup to pay tax might be atrocious. And I think startups would be so happy to hear this coming from the government side itself. But I know what you're saying, and I think the government has come out and trying to really help them from the government side also. So I think the sections that you clearly laid out in terms of 56, 44G, 80 IAC, and ITI, I think we already see a lot of questions coming in. So we'll come back to those questions later on. We'll get to Sumant now. Sumant, if you could just come in here, and just to give you a brief idea on Sumant here, to all the participants here. Sumant, Mr. Sumant Karlapudi he himself comes with over 13 years of experience. He's a director at EY for direct taxes. He's an accomplished CA and lawyer. And something that you will be really happy to know is that Sumant works closely with PE and angel funds for their investments into startups. So it couldn't get closer for a startup wanting to know the other side of the story. So Sumant, having said that, I hand it over to you and look forward to your presentation, Sumant. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Thank you, learned madam. And of course, thank you, Vizag Industrial Scan, for this opportunity. It's always a great honor to be able to, address such a young and vibrant crowd. When we talk about startups, I feel very enthusiastic for a session to do on startups, because usually I'm facing a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of young people who are looking for developing themselves and the country along with them. So I feel very enthusiastic about speaking to people who are interested in starting up themselves. I think ma'am had mentioned a quote which was very dear to my heart: death and taxes. I think another sentence which I would add on that is death and taxes, both if you try to avoid them, they end up being more costly. And I think that's where the whole thought process comes. I think what the government of India is doing for the startups and entrepreneurs is very commendable. On one hand, they're looking at sizing down the compliances to make it more business friendly, so that people are able to focus on their core area of expertise and make sure that businesses do well. And on the other hand, they are giving incentives to make sure that there's more money in the business so that the business thrives. And like how Ms. Mini had mentioned, there are a lot of things which are there, which have been provided, and I'll cover that in a few minutes. But one general essence that I want to leave before I start going into the topic is that compliance is not something you should shy away from. Compliance of your, be it direct taxes, be it other statutory laws. such as Companies Act or labor law, etc., will only increase the value of a company. In my role, when I work back with multiple PE funds and venture capital funds and angel investors, when they are given an option to invest between company A and company B, they will definitely look also at the compliance history of a company. They will evaluate whether the management is working in a proper manner to ensure that the compliances are done and that there's no hidden skeletons in the closet which will come back later after the investments are done. So it is very important for startups and also for the entrepreneurs and investors, potential investors, to know what are the compliances which would be applicable to a startup, and may ensure that there are sufficient systems in place so that the compliances are taken care of when they are required. With that, let me just go into the slides which I prepared for the conversation. Are my slides visible?
Yes, yes, Sumant.
Great. So I think it's great that Learned Madam had covered some of the topics which we wanted to cover, and probably I'll just skip to the next slide and talk about startup.
The slideshow hasn't come up. We see the presentation.
Oh, you see the presentation. Okay. Is it now gone to full screen, or?
No, I think you shared the PPT screen, not the slideshow.
Sure. Okay. 1 second. I'll just redo it. 1 second.
Go into the slideshow and then.
Yeah, I'm just selecting the entire screen, so then it should be sharing the whole thing. This should be fine now.
Yes, now.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I think when we were when Madam was explaining about DPIIT, it was a very good thing from a perspective that there are multiple benefits which are there for a startup to register themselves with DPIIT. DPIIT is the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. It has a website and a mobile app wherein you can quickly register your startup. And once you register yourself for the startup, you are able to get some of the many benefits which I'll cover in the next slide. And how Madam had mentioned, the startup needs to be either a private limited company or a registered partnership firm, or an LLP, or even as a one-man company, as has been recently been notified. It should not have completed more than 10 years from the date of incorporation, and the turnovers in any of the previous years should not have crossed 100 crores. There is a and like Madam had mentioned, there is a restriction that this startup should not have been created by reconstructing an existing business just for the purpose of registering it as a new startup. So the question you ask is that why should I register? What are the benefits that I will get if I register? And when you look at the benefits, one, and I'll come to the income tax benefits, but apart from the income tax benefits, there are different benefits which are there in the other laws as well, such as the labor laws and environmental laws. There is self-certification which is sufficient to ensure that you are compliant. So instead of having inspections and having to wonder whether you are compliant with the labor and environmental laws, these startups which are registered with DPIIT are given an option to self-certify whether they are compliant for 5-year period. Second, if there is any trademarks or patents which they are looking to register, up to 80% of such cost incurred for such registration is given by way of a rebate back to them. Third, in case of the public procurements, which is basically public limited entities or government entities or government organizations, if they're placing any procurement there is a relaxation of the norms, so that eligibility requirements which require that the company needs to be in so many years of activity are not applicable to startups which are registered with DPIIT. So it gives you a little edge over some of the other startups, and sometimes levels the playing field when you're comparing with other companies which are already in the industry. Now, coming to the income tax reliefs, once you register the startup with DPIIT, you are eligible to take the benefit of ATIIC, which Madam had mentioned, which is a 3-year tax holiday period over a 10-year period of the startup. There is relief from section 5627B, which is angel tax, so that any additional investment which is being made over the value of the startup does not end up being taxed in the hands of the startup. I did see a question in the chat, which was on whether the 90 rupees in Madam's example would be taxable after a certain period. No, 5627B is a tax which is at the time of receipt of money by the startup for the fund it raises. So it's only in that period that it is looked to be taxed. Capital gains exemption under 54GB, which enables you to sell a house property and invest that proceeds that you receive from that house property into a new startup which is registered with DPIIT, so that the capital gain which you get on such sale of house property would not be subjected to capital gains in your hands. For example, you are today owning a house which is worth, say, 50 lakh rupees. You had bought that house earlier for 25 lakh rupees. It is a long-term house. Now you're looking to start up a new company, and for that you need 50 lakh rupees to start the business. If you look at selling this house and getting that 50 lakh rupees out, typically what would have happened is on that 50 lakh rupees, you reduce the cost of acquisition of 25 lakhs, and you would have paid long-term capital gains on that money which you receive, which would mean that you would have lesser amount of money with you to invest into the company. But the section 54GB exemption which is there, which would allow you to invest all the 50 lakhs back into the startup, and would effectively mean that there is more money for the startup to grow and prosper. There's also a relief from section 79 perspective, which is for set off and carry forward of losses. If in the initial years you are working on your own without any major investors and are incurring losses, but subsequently if you get in investors and diluting your stake to less than 51%, in the past what would have happened is that the losses which you incurred when you were on your own would have not been allowed for you to set off against your profits in the later years. But this relaxation which has been given to startups which are registered with DPIIT gives you that amount of benefit so that you can make use of these losses and continue to prosper. There is also a significant benefit in terms of ESOP. ESOP is your stock options which you give to employees. I think in the startup culture or the startup environment, ESOP is a major instrument which enables you to hire the right talent and compensate people who work with you at tough times, so that they take part in your growth story and make sure that they are also benefited as the company grows. So ESOP is a stock option wherein you allocate some amount of capital to your employees to ensure that they also have a stake in the company, and as the company grows, your employees grow along with you. Typically what we've seen is that while the ESOP is granted to you, there is a tax when the employee exercises it. Now when the employee exercises it, it is that he's getting an asset, but does not necessarily mean that he is getting cash for at the time of exercise. It is only at the time of sale that a person is receiving money. So what benefit has been provided by the government is that you can defer the taxation to the point of 48 months after the assessment year in which ESOP is exercised, or the event of sale, whichever is earlier, so that this enables you to either collect the money to pay the tax, or pay the tax at the time of some sale of such ESOPs. And I will come to this later also in another slide. Next, I just before I go to the next slide, I just wanted to mention that in the recent budget, both 80 IAC and 54 GB, the time limit has been extended to 31st March 22. Madam Ji had also covered this topic. So I'll just move on to the next slide. Critically, I get a lot of questions from promoters and startup founders asking the question, Sumant, what is the tax rate? And it is very dependent on what is the form in which I have set up a company. If it's an LLP, if my company is if the LLP is having income less than 1 crore, it's 31%. That's 30% plus 4% surcharge cess, 4% cess. But if the LLP is making income more than 10 crores, that tax rate goes up to 34.94%, which is 30% tax rate plus 12% surcharge plus 4% education cess. In contrast, you may all have heard about 115 BAB and BAA, which are revolutionary tax rates which have been brought out by the government of India, reducing the tax rates to a lot of companies to ensure that there is growth in the Indian economy. That is the first two slides where you see that there is a 22% tax rate, which is later subjected to surcharge and cess and resulting in a higher tax number. If you look at manufacturing companies typically have the 15% tax rate, which with surcharge and cess can come up to 17.16%. Like I mentioned, compliance is something that startups should focus on. They should look at compliance as a good measure of making sure that there are enough systems to ensure that all the companies running in a good manner. And from a direct tax perspective, these are the monthly, quarterly, and yearly compliances. Depending on the nature of the company, some of these would not be applicable. For example, transfer pricing report, country by country reporting, some master file filings, and statement of financial transactions are typically in a startup which is having foreign, related party transactions. If that's not there, these would not be applicable. But I would definitely encourage you to have a conversation with your chartered accountant to see what are applicable to your startup and ensure compliance. Likewise, from an indirect tax perspective, these are the compliances that you would need to be aware about and ensure that you're doing it. Now, towards helping the startups who are there, I just wanted to cover two topics which I believe are very important in this day and age. One is ESOPs and second is labor laws. From an ESOP standpoint, I wanted to just tell the forum that there are multiple modes of ESOP. When someone talks about ESOP, they think as a founder, you may be scared saying that, no, but if I give a percentage of my share to my employees, am I not reducing the gains that I have? And would I be reducing the control that I have on my company? Would I be losing control on my own company? No, that's not the case. ESOP is determined based on the extent that you are interested in giving benefits to your employees. You can give the benefits by way of a notional stock, wherein you whatever value the company grows, to that extent the value is given to your employees without having to lose out control or giving them shareholder rights. So these different methodologies are there. But what you need to notice is that where the modality of the options changes, the taxing also changes. Currently, if you look at this chart and if you're seeing the different important lines which are there, there is grant, wherein you grant an ESOP to an employee. There is a vest, as in where you say the employee is given the right to exercise, and based on which he can either exercise at the time of vesting or he can exercise at a later date depending on his own financial status, on his option to exercise. And then there is the ultimate sale where once exercises he's doing the same. So when you talk about taxing, the employee is taxed as salary for the gains between vesting to exercise. So the value of the shares at the time of vesting to value of the shares at the time of exercise is taxed as salary in his hands. And post exercise, the gains which are theirs from exercise to sale are taxed as capital gains. Hope I'm being clear. Now, as you can imagine, different options have different mechanisms, and accordingly the taxations change. So this is a valuable input from a perspective, as it enables you to give salary and benefits to employees without burdening the company with an outflow in the form of salaries. So it can actually substitute bonus and ensure that you hire the right talent at the right time. The other point that I really wanted to leave with the forum here is that labor code is undergoing a great change in our country. You are having a consolidation and you are having a lot of rationalization of the labor law. You are having changes to the definitions of wages. You are having changes to the procedures that need to be taken care by the startup, right from how you hire, what policies you need to keep, how much overtime you pay to your employees, who is eligible to overtime within your employees, and also at the time of exit, where you have to determine the full and final settlement and close the account of the employee within 2 days. So currently, this draft central rules have been issued. Draft state rules have also been released by certain states like Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, and Karnataka. We're still awaiting them in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. But this is something which has gained a lot of momentum from the industry side. As you can imagine, where there's on the economic side, where there's a lot of manufacturing which is moving from China and other Southeast Asian countries to India, there's an increased there's an increased motion by the government that they need to change the industrial code, bring it aligned so that there is ample enablers, that there is a large scale employment generated and large scale production which happens in the country. So I would say, watch this space. Please do stay in cognizance of what changes are happening from a labor code, so that you are able to do what's right for your employees. That is it from my side.